Hello everybody. Today we're going to be doing another Fractal Designs FAQ video. Today we're going to be installing a set of table legs on this 30 by 60 desk. We're going to be installing them using Rampa threaded inserts and bolts. So if you don't get Rampa inserts and bolts, stuff like that, it will be the same process. I just recommend you buy Rampa inserts and bolts, and that's not because we sell them, we do, but the reason is I've used cheaper ones in the past and I've actually had them break in whatever I'm putting them in. This is a piece of maple, so it's gonna be pretty hard. There's nothing worse than breaking an insert in your table because either you have to shift the legs or drill it out and then your hole's too big. It's a mess, so just buy the proper hardware once. So first things first, we never used a threaded insert here before. Essentially it has threads on the outside, and then it has threads on the inside, and then it has a hexagonal head here for an Allen key. So essentially what you do is you flip your legs upside down like this, you mark your centers of your holes, you drill your hole, you drive this bad boy in here with an Allen key, or I'm going to use actually a hex head bit on my drill. Drive this in flush or a little bit recessed, doesn't matter, and then you can put your bolt right through your leg and into the insert, allowing you to install and take it apart and put it together many times, which is pretty sweet. You can use screws. There's nothing wrong with screws. It's just if you're delivering furniture or if you're going to be moving it and keeping it forever, this is the way to go. They're not overly expensive, so if you're going to do it, you might as well do it right. Most common sizes you're going to see, we include M5s with all of our tube legs. We're installing a set of Zig Zag legs here today. So M5s is what we include with all of our tube legs. So they're an 8mm pilot hole, and then another common size you'll see are the M6s and then the M8s. So off the top of my head, I believe these are a 10.5mm pilot hole, and then the M8s are a 12.5, but make sure you verify that before you install them. If you're going into a harder material, they're going to bite a lot harder, so just be a little more careful. So first thing, we're going to set up our drill bit. So if you notice here, and it's the same for most of them, you're going to see that the insert is actually a lot shorter than the bolt. So if we screw this in and we account for our thickness of our leg, you're going to see that we're still going to have the bolt. I'm not sure if you guys can see that. Let me get it screwed in here. So let's say that's our top plate there. We're still going to have our bolt sticking through our insert. So what you have to do is, we don't need to drill the depth of the insert, we need to drill the depth of the bolt. So what I do is I just grab my bolt. I have these little brad point bits here with the little roundovers. I use them as stops. I just line it up here, and I put this at the bottom here so that it's flush, and then I'm just going to hold it there and take my Allen wrench, and I'm just going to tighten that down there. So I know that my depth is good. Now, Brad, I have a thin table, what do I do? Well, you can get smaller bolts. These are M5, so if you go on a retailer, you'll be able to find smaller M5 bolts. If you're gonna, I would definitely recommend getting Rampa inserts, but the bolts are probably fine to use as long as they're a quality bolt. So these are an inch long. Let's say your table's only an inch thick. Obviously that's getting a little tight. So you can probably step down to like a 3/4 inch bolt or something like that. So you can definitely do that. It's just an M5 thread. So that's definitely an option. This is about 1 3/4 inches thick, so I'm not worried about that at all. So I'm just going to drill a full inch and dry my inserts, and then I'm going to go. So yeah, let's get to it. Now the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to lay out our legs. So this is a 60-inch long table by 30-inch, so I'm using a 24-inch wide leg here. So this is actually a desk, so I'm going to actually keep this leg closer to the outside on both sides so that I have more space in the middle for an office chair. And then that's it. So whenever you're laying out legs on a table, you have to kind of think about what the table is being used for. So if this was a dining room table, let's say, standard distance from the end of the table is usually 12 to 18 inches. So that's what I would recommend going with if you're having a little bit of trouble. So a smaller one, a smaller dining room table, you're gonna be closer to the 12. A larger one, you can get closer to that 18 inches. Anyway, so for this one, I'm just gonna do 6 on each side so that I have a nice space in the middle here for my chair. So essentially I'm gonna come in 6 from each end, and then I'm gonna come and I'm gonna split the difference here. So if I come here, I got 6 there, and then I got 6 and an 1/8 here. So a lot of the time when you go to push these, they shift on you. So a nice little trick is here, just plant your thumb there, and then just pull this in an 1/8, and that just stops that side from kicking out on you. So there we got 6, and we have 6. And then now we're gonna do our distance from the edges. I have 2 7/8 heavy, and I got 3. So I will just pull this way a little bit. Now I got 3 light, 6, and 6. Now, so we have our legs where we want them. So we can come in here and we start to mark our centers. So you can use a marker to do this, and you can just mark the center, or I actually prefer to use a pick like this. So the reason for that is I find with the marker, sometimes I get in here too aggressively and I wiggle the leg around, and then I end up chasing my tail. So what I do is I just come in here, I find the center, there it is, and I just push down. And now I have a little hole there that you'll see when we do the drilling that my brad point bit is gonna sink right in there. So these two are on the resin, no problem, you just gotta push a little harder. Here we go. You're probably maybe wondering why there's slots in table legs. The reason is the wood will continue to move throughout its life, so having slots allows the wood to expand and contract without being restricted by the legs. So there we are, we got all our centers, so we're good to go. We're gonna get this out of our way. So if you come down here, you should be able to see. You see that hole right there? There's one, there's the other one, and then we have the other 4. So now that we have all those, take our brad point bit. So this is 1 inch deep. Remember, we already set our depth. Now, we're about to start drilling into our beautiful tabletop. Before you do this, and before you even mark it, make sure you're on the back of your table. I've never done it, but I have been close to making the mistake. When you do these tables, they look so nice on both sides. So just make sure you're on the back of your table. So I got my bit here, I'm ready to go. I'm gonna turn up the speed of my drill, put it to drilling. I'm just gonna double check visually, make sure that if I go all the way in, I'm not gonna have any issues. So now this little hole here, my brad point's actually gonna sit directly in that, nice and easy. So I'm just gonna come over top here. Perfect. And then we're gonna go on to the next one. Nice. Now the resin, you can drill resin. It is very hard. So just make sure that you're right over top of it. And you just go nice and slow. This one I'm not gonna go all the way. This isn't a completely opaque resin, so I don't wanna see the insert from the top side. So I stopped maybe 1/4 inch shy there, and if I have to put a washer in between that bolt and the plate, I'm completely fine with that. So. Perfect, there we go. Get rid of that for now. Make sure you clean out the holes pretty good. I just have this little vacuum here. Okay guys, like I told you, you can either use an Allen key or a ratchet with the bit on it. I like to use my drill. I find it's a lot easier to keep it square. I can grab it like this and I drive them in. So essentially we're just gonna find the bit that fits these inserts here. We're gonna put that in our bit holder, enter this into our drill. There we go. Now I was just drilling with this. We do not need this drill on full power to drive these inserts, okay? It's just gonna go too fast, we won't be able to control it. We're gonna drop this all the way to 1, and we're gonna turn it down to as low of torque as I can have it on. And the reason for that is these things really, really bite, okay? And I've actually been the guy that just finished drilling the holes, come over here, put this on here, I went to drive my insert, not even thinking about it. Usually I have it on 1, it was on 3, and I actually bottomed out in this hole. And it actually popped a chunk out around the hole. It actually took the whole thing with it. Day before delivery wasn't good. So make sure you take your time, turn your torque down. Another big thing you're gonna see a lot of these guys doing, they're putting glue on the, like in the threads here or in the holes and then threading these in. I've never done it, and that story I just told you is kind of proof that these things bite hard enough, whereas if the insert's gonna fall out of your wood, that's probably the least of your issues, because it would have had to have been a hell of an event for that to happen. Anyway, so yeah, pretty easy. Got our torque down low. We're just gonna put this on here, come over here, push really good. And then I'm just below flush there. Sometimes it rips up a little bit of the material there. Now you can fix that if you want to round this over a little bit. You take a round over bit and you do it. I find if I just push hard enough, it's never nearly bad enough, and it's under the table legs, so I don't see it super necessary. Now you can drill into the resin, same thing. We're just going to take it easy. Just like that, nice and easy. Okay, there we are. We are ready to now put our table leg on this table here. So we're just gonna grab our table leg here, orient it the way that you want. That looks great. And then now we can go ahead and we can put the bolts in. So same thing, I use my impact to drive these. I wouldn't recommend using an older impact. This is a newer one, so it's got the 3 modes. So the first mode is literally just snug. It doesn't torque at all, it just drives, and then it doesn't actually torque. So the bolts also have an Allen key on them. Find your bit, put it there, and you're ready to go. If you're not using this, I used a ratchet for many years to put these in. Good practice when you're ever installing bolts into anything is just make sure that you start them all by hand. And the reason for that is if you cross thread it and then you go to drive it with your drill, you're gonna have a bad time. For threaded inserts, I guess, if you were gonna cross thread anything, they would probably be the most forgiving because you can just take the insert out and put a new one in. But good practice in life anyways, in my opinion. So we got all of our things there. And sometimes it's like, just do a couple by hand quick. Okay, so we got this on 1. We're just gonna go here. Snug. 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 Now, I'm pretty confident that these are snug. I can't even wiggle them at all. You can definitely go after you do this and test how tight they are with, again, a ratchet. So I'm actually poking my nail under here. Remember, we didn't drill the ones into the resin as deep because I didn't want to see the whole bolts from the other side. With transparent resin, I would have actually probably completely avoided these 2 holes and drilled 2 new ones right beside the river there, or maybe 1 on each side. Or I would have maybe just, it's a smaller table, I would have just maybe avoided them all around. Anyway, I was just checking to make sure that those snugged up, which they did. So we are good to go. So essentially all you're gonna do is you're gonna do exactly that on the other side, and then you're done. Your table legs are installed. If you guys have any questions or comments, please drop them in the comments below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can, and thanks for watching.
fight, never quit, do it right, play the game, win it life, have no shame, there's no time, feel the pain, live the grind, I could change, in my mind, pick a lane, commit and climb, the only way.